I'm going to read some excerpts from a few different projects, but I was told to start with a joke, so it's not very funny. But last winter I started watching Grey's Anatomy, maybe, and then I watched the whole 11 seasons or whatever in a remarkably short amount of time, which I was so relieved when it ended, I don't know. But anyway, this poem's called Oh Sandra, Oh. Sandra, talk to me about the placement of the planets when you were born, when your body appeared from another, oh, from your mother. Oh, Sandra, where was the moon in relation to the room, to the womb? And did you shout into the constellations, the fluorescent light, oh, don't fuck with me, and call all the doctors by name? Oh, Sandra, remember my face, oh, and remember my voice, oh, the way I enunciate a shrill cry, oh, a still sigh, oh, Sandra, oh, listen, I've just been born, but even I can feel it, oh, Sandra, oh. You can laugh, it's fine. Okay, and I'm going to read a few poems from a chapbook that I have coming out in the spring. The chapbook is called When Tongue Was Muscle, and that'll also be from Anomalous Press. And it was written as sort of a dictionary, so mostly each poem is named after the body part that is being described. So the first one is called Ear. We have made of it our purposes, of biting or of ornament. Other than this, it collects sound in sound's pure state before the brain has applied the sound a meaning. Most sounds are only air moving, or air moving through other things, or things moving through air. We hear one sound which breaks infinitely into categories, and then by moving air through our bodies, we identify. We say, sound. Tongue. When tongue was muscle, it manipulated food, pushed back against lips, wrapped around fingers, pressed the nape of the neck, grabbed the flesh off the bones of gazelles, pulled water from the ground to the throat, washed wounds, said hello and goodbye, lover, and we got to know the nature of calculating by learning to calculate. Movement. Think of them bodies acting, being active. I own my arm by moving it. I speak with sound, air through body, manipulated, filtered through body makes speech. I speak. Dear ground, I say, dear air, dear human. I speak and am human, making sound. I climb the tree. In times of stress, move upward, suspend yourself above. Feelings only matter to the earth. And this is the last one from that project, and it's called Marrow. What we collect when we collect, we collect pieces to build ourselves anew. In the rocks we discover piles of bones left by owls, bones once belonging to mice, to kangaroo rats, to lizards. The sun has cleaned them. In bones we discover the shine of the body, the clear white of a self-grown mineral. Some things are simple. Our bodies are hard, but they give. The rib cage protects the heart from a roaming hand, but a cough can crack it. We still press against and pull away from all kinds of surfaces. What does marrow taste like when it lives, when it gives? I'll tell you. It tastes like the juniper berry, the ginned juice of the bush. Do you remember when your life flashed before you? When your body pushed forward and was stopped? When you felt the most alive? when you woke up knowing all of your fear had left you, when loneliness could not touch you, when even the hard heat of the desert, the empty space of the desert, the charred wood of the desert, like your heart was a desert, like your marrow was sand, like your bones were the skeleton of the cholla, and the air blew through as they burned, as they blued in the sun. Do you remember that taste? The pith? Okay. And I'm going to read from a chapbook I have called Ghosts. Just going to read a couple sections. It's a narrative, and it's about a person who is looking for her lost brother, and is sort of being haunted by a ghost. And the ghost was able to speak to the brother. The brother could hear him, but the narrator, the human in the story, cannot hear the ghost. So there are these two characters that are both speaking but can't hear each other, can't understand each other. So the first part I'm going to read is in the voice of the ghost. This world is desert, dry dust and things that crackle and break. This world is heat that kills anything that does not adapt or stay inside. This house is a shelter, a container to be filled. This world contains desert, which contains a house, which contains bodies containing organs, brains, spirits. This house is full of ghosts, but we are not contained by walls or heat or skin. I was human when a body enclosed me, and I was stuck there within it, attached to it and forced to be it. I was physical, a shelter that crackled and broke, and now I am nothing but a current of air. Human, hello, what are you looking for? I can see it's not me you're trying to find. When I enter your skull and fit myself between lobes, I am listening intently, hoping to hear it, whatever buzzes inside. I hope to catch a glimpse of what it is that you seek. What was common between us is lost now. There is no language, mutual sound that exists between bodies and ghosts, but only rarely the fleeting sense that we've touched. Human walks into the house with an ever-increasing number of dogs following behind her. Dogs chew at the woodwork, dig at the floor, sleep. Human and dogs look right at me, then turn and leave the room. Did they see me? I approach the face of one, graze its skin, settle on the bridge of a nose. I am unnoticed. Unrest. This is unrest. This is a well of unrest. This is what exists in the negative space. After life comes an absence of life, which is no definition at all. I can tell you what I am not, but there are no words for what I am. An absence of language exists in the area that is me, and yet there are words to say. Are they speaking? Do they speak? Dog stares at human, stares at dog, stares at ghost, stares at human, turns away. Each species is alone in a well of itself. And I'm just going to read one more section, and this is in the voice of the person. One of my brother's ears folded over in a flap. He had held it that way for so long, trying to block out or hold in the voices of ghosts, that the cartilage permanently creased. I remember him sometimes looking like one of the dogs, staring at some invisible thing just above me, one ear erect while the other drooped. Are these things genetic, or do ghosts choose certain sorts of people to show themselves to? It was sometimes called a gift, proof that he was protected, and that by proximity so was I. You're there, I would say into the night, and he would answer, you're there. Whatever else there was this echo repeating our presence back to us. Now I wake up, and if I bother to say it, if I am brave enough to say it, there is only silence in response. A dog may look up at me, the wind may alert itself, but there is no voice to confirm me, there is nothing that speaks. What was between us, what was fraught, was taken by the ghost. And this was all there was, I realized. We were each other's accounting. I existed because he saw me, and we existed together because we saw the same surrounding. But the ghost was there for him only, and its presence was a rewriting. To him, this desert became ghost before sand, and so we could not both live there with certainty, could not know as before that when one was there, the other was or was not. One night he looked and saw only ghost. He ran away from me, away from the house. I followed him. I was not fast enough, and at some point the sounds of our feet were inverted. At some point it was me who was pursued. How long did we run? Or did I imagine the sounds of his feet? Was it just the dogs that followed? We could have been going anywhere that night. We could have been going to the same place, but we did not arrive there, and he never came back. When I returned, there was no one to confirm my arrival, but the dogs started showing up dying, and so I brought them all in. Now there is only one thing that could know him. There is only the ghost. And so I watch the dogs and wait for their eyes to move together to some spot on the wall. I wait for their fur to stand on end. I am older now than he was then, and we are hundreds, it seems, spilling from the house, searching, crossing highways with intent. So that's Ghost, and I have a few copies, so afterwards if you want to come see me. And I think Chen also has some copies of his chapter. So I'm just going to read a couple more, and that's from a project that is currently underway, and so these poems all take place in the ocean. The first one's called Blue Whale. I wanted to speak, so I spoke to the blue whale's heart as it pumped 1,000 pounds. The heart was 1,000 pounds, and I pressed my whole body against it until I was red with its blood. And the heart did not notice me. I could not harm it. It opened for me, and I fell into the organ and let the throb move me hot and thick, my body up and down and up and down, until my own heart matched the massive beat. This is heat, and now I know what it takes, what a mammal needs to live. In the ocean, in sea, whale grows bigger, opens its mouth to swallow whole land strips, but finds its throat too small, swallows instead small fish, seaweed, debris. The heart weighs 1,000 pounds, but the whale takes in only what is necessary to pump the organ, to circulate blood throughout the largest body, and swim fish. The giant fish swims, grows hair, and calls itself a mammal, breathes air, and grows large enough to be called a landmass. Birds don't know the difference, or we know too little to know that they know the difference. Bioluminescence. Oxygenated organisms glow through their skin, emit radiant energy in the open sea's night, so you can follow a phosphorescent light, the green hue of life. Hold your breath and dive, join what sinks. Even a coal mine can make use of the sea's light if you skin the fish right. You are lost or lonely, the ocean glows, calls, submerge inside it. Watch for the illuminate, though the salt dries out the sclera, light is faster, penetrates faster than mineral enters eye. The water glows when touched like my skin in winter, unwrapped, layers of sweaters, light trapped, in hibernation, charging a current released like the shock of static with a hand down my back, my body, the whole house and ocean lights to a thaw. And this is the last poem I'm going to read. It's called Coral. Coral in correlation to coral, correlating to rock, to the sea floor, to organisms such as coral, calling coral alive. In color, coral the color of rest. In midday light, coral so bright, so glow, so slow, growing, glow, going with the current, coral flowing, coral in movement and light, contained in water and salt from the flat of a floor of a sea, raked and planted, moving like a nerve and saying, the future is a curve. Cooling, reprieve from heat, relief from sheath, covering a hardened shell, a living rock, coral pulsing, heart beating against the coral ribcage, coral artery, coral transplant, organ breathing, on the ocean floor, sweeping, making grit, salt and shell, sand and pearl, dissolving into sand, gathering on land a currency. The ocean's exchange, self-sustaining ecosystem, self-replenishing capitalism, growing in a shell, a body. The unfertilized row, unified sediment or row now across the ocean, the warm seas, where sunlight finds algae, gives life from light to coral. The skeleton of oceans, the slow thalassic grass and weed of the reef. Still, coral like the bed and weight, and stasis solidifies water, walks water, rest insect at the edge, top layer of water's horizon, where world meets and sees coral blooming in color, in blue pillars, staghorn corals in colonies, in sea whip, sea feather, or pen and sink exo. Show yourself. Stitching color shell together, broken pieces pulled back with thread and tethered, tied to the seabed, the resurrected bone, original nervous system, moving, calicle, moving, calcite, filling life from aragonite. Coral is more coral already, undone, all ready to let the body be the hardest part of coral. Coral asks coral for love. Coral makes coral from just coral and spawns coral polyps in the moon's full and blighted, lighted blue. Thank you.